I'm so excited. I feel like that little girl with the cotton candy. Tamarack is my absolute favorite bark to be able to witness, along the same lines as the idea where plant medicine or Mshkiigwaatikohns takes a lifetime of dedication and takes a lot of work, that it doesn't really work very fast. We just want to get fixed now. But what I want you to understand is that Tamarack and how amazing it is, how perfect it is for your nerves. Tamarack is extremely fast. So it's like an instant. Within a few hours, there's already some really intense, noticeable benefits. And so it's really fast. And so I like to use Tamarack to be able to get people sort of hooked on plant medicine, to be able to be like, hey, this stuff is pretty legit. This is, I didn't know you could do this. I thought plant medicine took forever to be able to, we look at plant medicine as being nutraceutical, or as being as like a part of our nutrition, which it should be, like in the case of prevention, but in the case of treatment, it deserves a very real place in that realm of treatment and therapy. And so Tamarack is what I use to get people interested in that idea, because of how fast acting it is. It's one of my favorites to share to communities, and also like diabetic neuropathy is probably one of the most common issues I use Tamarack for. Diabetic neuropathy is when sugar, because sugar is incredibly toxic to nerve cells. You have excessive or elevated amounts of sugar because of diet or because of stress or because of diabetes. This destroys your nerves, and your nerves start to recede off of your feet. And we've worked with people who have had no feeling in their feet for like 15 years or 20 years. And so what we do is we take Tamarack bark, make a nice solid bath, like a nice solid strong tea, and then soak their feet. A lot of times, a lot of communities, I'll just get somebody with real bad diabetic neuropathy, just make them their own pot of tea, and then tell them to just sit in the corner, soak their feet. And then, because what happens is somebody who has absolutely no feeling in their feet for like 15 years, you soak your feet in Tamarack, and within a half hour, they'll feel temperature change. In a foot that they haven't felt temperature change in over a decade, they'll feel the water is warm. And they're like, hey, I could feel something unusual. The water's warm. And I even had one guy, in this case, we were with a big group, all had diabetic neuropathy. We were soaking our feet. The nurse was there helping for the bath, the foot soak, making sure it wasn't too hot so there was no scalding. And it was really neat because Buddy put his feet in, and after about a half hour, I said, hey, and his English was real bad. I think he was like real Cree. This water's hot. And then and then the nurse freaked out, and then she ran over and she ripped his feet out of the tub and started drying them off because she thought his feet were scalding because we were just adding warmer uppers to the foot soak. And then he's like, hey, my feet are hot. And then she washed his foot, and then but he wanted to say that this water, it's warm. I could feel that it's getting warm. I could feel that it's getting hot. But he just busts out like, it's good. This water's hot. In his case, what was wrong was that nurse pulled his feet out of the tea. And then the nurse, because she thought he was scalding, but he knew his feet were getting better. And so he's trying to push that woman off of his feet. But his belly was too big and he couldn't really bend over to push her. So then he's yelling in Cree at his wife. And I could understand a little bit. I'm not fluent in Cree, or I'm not even fluent in Ojibwe, but the languages are so similar. I could hear that he's yelling at his wife. He's telling his wife, asking his wife, get this woman off of me. And then his wife speaks better English, so she yells, get off of his feet. It's okay. He's trying to tell you that his feet are doing better. And then the nurse sort of put her hand in his foot soak, and it wasn't scalding temperature, so she put his feet back in, and it was a real hilarious little misunderstanding. But after that, there was two other women in that group who spoke out, and they were like, hey, my feet are getting warm too. I thought I was just feeling things. I thought that was just in my head. So after about 90 minutes, generally what happens is they'll have a change from it being very painful to it being quite bearable, and to just feel a little bit more like pins and needles. After an hour and a half, man, you got some trench foot going on, especially hot water. Their feet are real wrinkly looking, but they don't want to take their feet out because they could feel what's happening. They could feel all of this feeling is coming back, and the temperature change. They're starting to become sensitive on their feet. And so after 3 hours, we'll do the prick test, the diabetic neuropathy prick test, and on their feet, and be able to identify that after 3 hours of soaking your feet in that medicine, you have sensation throughout your whole foot. And that is one of my favorite programs to deliver absolutely anywhere, is to give people that experience, that if you soak your feet in 3 hours, you'll have feeling in limbs, in appendages that you haven't had feeling in 15, 20 years. Doesn't matter. You could be like Mr. Deeds, and at the end of 3 hours, you're going to have some form of feeling. Some really dramatic change is going to happen for people who have chemotherapy-induced neuropathy, which is also really common. Usually women who will have this because it's a consequence of one of the most common breast cancer chemotherapies, to be able, and I keep doing this because that's what they do. One of the things that makes them so happy is that they can do buttons again, from having chemotherapy-induced neuropathy in their hands or in their fingers to when they can't, they have no feeling, and so they can't feel to put buttons on, so they cannot wear button-up shirts. Or if they have an admin job, if you have an admin job and you're typing, you're back to typing like with just 2 fingers again, and you have to watch where each finger is going. And then more often than not, you lose your job because you can't do admin work anymore. You can't dial a phone very easy, and you're not productive, and so you have to be replaced. I've met women who were right in that exact situation where they were just about to lose their job, and soaking their hands and their feet for a couple hours, and then taking more tea home and soaking them again before bed. The next day they come back to the if my workshop is a continuation, they'll come the next day with a button-up shirt on. We got like just stories for days about how amazing Tamarack is to be able to help with your nerves for all kinds of neurological sort of degenerative diseases. I just can't get enough of Tamarack. It's really, really incredible what it's able to do. And you look at how devastating neurological diseases are, neurodegenerative diseases like MS are really incredibly scary. Probably numbness, waking up with numbness or something like this has got to be one of the scariest feelings. I can't even imagine. I think one of the reasons why there's such an intense fear around neurological diseases is because this idea that you're born with a certain number of brain cells and they only die from there. And so if you experience a disease that a die off of brain cells, those are not replaceable. And this has been, of course, proven false. And we know that you can regenerate brain cells. And we'll cover all kinds of real cool different pathways and mechanisms, how Tamarack helps with that, to be able to induce neurogenesis. But there's this idea, this fear out there that nerves don't come back. And we still have this in the back of our head, even though it's false, even though there's no reason to believe that this is even a thing anymore. But we have this fear that we were raised with, that these don't come back. I think that's where that fear comes from. And then if we wake up and we have numbness and it's like, oh no, it's happening to me and there's nothing I'm going to be able to do. We've had so much experience in all of these different communities and with all of these different people with all of these different neurological diseases, and every time they get to experience Tamarack, there's always some massive results. It's incredible. And so I just wanted to figure out how is it working. And when I looked to figure out how it was working, I was able to realize that Tamarack has, out of the 8,000 phenylytics that have been extensively studied, of all of those that have extreme neuroprotective, neurogenesis inducing, anti-inflammatory properties, Tamarack has all of them, all combined into one perfect little plant. How the heck is this possible? And then researching the mechanism of action of each of those phenylytics was able to uncover pretty well every problem that has to do with neurological diseases. And Tamarack's role in helping to fix that, exactly how it works, has been mapped out. This is how the map looks. And it's just like a phenomenal, perfect plant to be able to help with so many different problems. So focused on that one problem, like as if it was made for it.
Okay, we're going to whip through a couple little questions here. Just